Hello everyone, it is that time once again, yet again. Time for this month's TBR, June, 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 June. Also known as the hottest month in my hometown where I live, El Paso, Texas. It gets pretty freaking hot here in the month of June, as I'm sure it does in other parts of the country, but especially here. I think later today it's going to reach a high of over 100, something like that. So, as we all know, I mean, for me, well, if you don't already know, for me, I like to kind of poke fun at what TBR stands for. For me, usually I prefer it to mean tacos, beer, and the reading of books. Now, every time I try to have some kind of beer with me or tacos, well, I mean, I actually went to Taco Bell. I got some tacos, but I was so hungry that I ate them. I planned on having at least one of them in front of the camera with me, but yeah, I couldn't wait. And as for beer, of course, I've been trying to cut back a little on that. Not that I've ever been a big drinker to begin with, but also I'm not much of a day drinker, but so, I mean, I ate the tacos. I will most likely have some beers sometime this weekend. What I do have is Yoo-hoo. Yoo-hoo. If you're not familiar with Yoo-hoo, it's just a kind of chocolate drink. Of course, it's better when it's ice cold. So, this has been in the freezer for a while. And so, without further delay, I'll just get right into it here. Talk about what I plan on reading this month, or hope to get around to reading and listening to this month. So first, I'd like to reread Siddhartha by Hermann Hesse. I read this once before, quite a while ago, and I attempted to reread it, I think sometime last year. I do remember back when I first started my booktube channel, at one point, I think it was around this time last year, I attempted to reread it. I didn't get very far because I got wrapped up in reading a bunch of other stuff. But definitely this month I do want to reread this. By the way, if you haven't read it yet, I do recommend reading it at least once. Very profound, a lot of really interesting stuff throughout this. Yeah. Next is an audiobook titled Cheech. Cheech is not my real name, but don't call me Chun, by Cheech Marin. Of course, if you're not familiar with the famous comedic duo Cheech and Chong, I do recommend looking them up, checking them out, because they are pretty hilarious. This is essentially like a autobiography / memoir by Cheech Marin, and it's pretty new. I want to say it came out sometime earlier this year. So yeah, I don't know. It seemed interesting, hilarious. I've yet to listen to an audiobook that has any kind of comedic element to it, so looking forward to listening to this. Next audiobook I checked out is Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime by Mark Haddon, or Hayden, however you pronounce his last name. I heard a lot of interesting, well, I've read some mixed reviews of this on Goodreads and a couple other sites. But I don't know, it seemed interesting to me. It's essentially about a 15-year-old boy with Asperger's, which is a condition similar to autism, and he ends up something to do with the neighbor's dog. The neighbor's dog is killed, and so he tries to find out who killed the dog. Yeah, don't know much other than that, so seemed interesting. I figured why not. I hope I'm able to listen to at least half of this month. And got another audiobook. This might be a theme for this month for me. Audiobook month. But this one is titled Live Happy, 10 Practices for Choosing Joy by Deborah K. Heiss. I guess it's like a self-help kind of thing. I've read several self-help books in the past. Never listened to any self-help audiobook before. And I mostly checked this out because it seemed like it would be an easy listen, very positive, uplifting too. So, because I've listened to, recently I've listened to several audiobooks that kind of have a much more of an, I guess, dramatic tone to it, also kind of depressing, and so yeah, I wanted to be able to listen to something that for me would be at least somewhat positive, uplifting, even if it does turn out to be pretty cheesy. I figured still, nothing wrong with feeling positive, happy. So yeah. Okay, this will be the last audiobook for this month's TBR. This is titled Andrew's Brain by E.L. Doctorow. Yeah, Andrew's Brain. I read the synopsis of this. It seemed interesting enough. Something about Andrew, who was telling the story of his own life, and I guess it's filled with a lot of deep psychological revelations or something like that. That's what I got from the synopsis. So I guess it all takes place from inside his head, inside Andrew's brain. So, yeah. So, next one is Sharp Objects by Gillian Flynn. I purchased this a while ago on betterworldbooks.com, and I read, I want to say it was called The Adults. I believe it's her short story a while ago. I definitely liked it. I've yet to read Gone Girl. I did see the movie Gone Girl. I thought it was okay. Definitely interesting. I wanted to read this before getting to Gone Girl because for me this seemed a little more interesting. And I read a lot of pretty good reviews on this, so yeah. This one is a classic, though I guess depending on who you ask. The Rainbow by D.H. Lawrence. I recently purchased this at my local used bookstore, which is also located within my local library. Only paid $1 for this. The only other work by D.H. Lawrence I read was titled The Women, and I liked that, except the only thing I didn't like about that was there was a lot of metaphors, a a lot of metaphors and analogies. Also, it seemed like there was even some moments where, like he would use like different metaphors and different analogies to describe the actions of the different characters, but also the emotions of different characters. Which I mean, I did like. I found it to be unique. It was definitely hard to understand. At some point, I'm going to have to reread that one, The Women. But this one, I heard some good stuff about it, read a couple of good reviews on it, so yeah. And like I said, it was only $1, so I figured why not. I do hope I'm able to get through, I don't know, I'm going to say like 40 to 50% of this month at least. Yeah, I'm trying to be somewhat realistic, so. Next one is a graphic novel. This is Suicide Squad Volume 3, Death is for Suckers. Of course, if you've been watching my channel for a while, you know that I read and reviewed Volume 1 and Volume 2. I thoroughly enjoyed those. I found out my local library had Volume 3 available, so I checked it out right away. Definitely look forward to continuing this there. Again, I mean, I've said this before many times. This version of Suicide Squad is definitely way better than the recent movie. There. Next is another graphic novel, and I was pretty surprised that this existed. It's the Three Stooges. Of course, I mean, you gotta know who the Three Stooges are. I mean, you gotta. If you don't, I suggest looking them up as soon as possible. Three Stooges, famous, infamous comedy trio. Like I said, I was surprised that this graphic novel existed. But then I guess it makes sense. Because at one point they did have their own cartoon series, animated series. So yeah. Looking forward to reading this and just, being able to laugh at some silly stuff. Okay, this is another graphic novel that I was surprised existed. It's titled Bill and Ted Go to Hell. Yeah, Bill and Ted. Again, if you don't know about Bill and Ted, I suggest you look them up as soon as possible too. Of course, Bill and Ted are these two best friends. They got a rock band called Wild Stallions. And they travel through time, meet a lot of historical figures, have some interesting adventures. So I guess, ultimately it does make sense that they would turn it into a graphic novel. The artwork looks pretty cool. And it also looks like it's remaining true to the spirit of the movies. So, the movies, of course, starred Keanu Reeves and I believe Alex Winter, I want to say. Yeah. Back in the day, I was a big fan of Bill and Ted movies, especially the first one. I don't know how many times I watched it. It was definitely more than 20 or so times. So, I'm definitely looking forward to reading this. Definitely. Last on my TBR for June is by Neil Gaiman, View from the Cheap Seats, Select Nonfiction. Of course, I have read some Neil Gaiman's work in the past. I've read a couple of his short story collections, also some of his novellas. So I was surprised that he actually wrote nonfiction. This one is essentially a collection of, I guess you could technically call them essays. To give you an idea of what these are about, he writes about stuff like science fiction, films and movies, comics, and some of the people who make them. Some people I've known. Also, some things I believe, and so on and so forth. So, definitely seem interesting. Obviously, it is pretty thick. Don't know exactly how much I'll be able to read this month, but hopefully at least, I want to say maybe 40-50% of it. So, yeah, let me know if you heard this. Also, if you read it, if it's a decent read. Yeah, so that'll do it for my June TBR. Thanks for watching. As always, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all the good stuff. If you feel up to it, don't hesitate. Follow me on social media. All the links will be down below. And as always, until next time, keep it real, keep on rocking, and peace.